So how are you, Mary?
I'm great, thank you.
Thanks for being here with us today.
It's a pleasure.
Very happy to have you be here and speak to us about Eluna. So let's get started with, Eluna was originally created as the Moyer Foundation in 2000. Can you start by telling us how the organization first came to be?
Yeah, Jamie and Karen Moyer. Jamie's a hometown Philly guy, played for the Phillies, but when he was with the Mariners, him and Karen, parents of 8 children, really just wanted to help children in distress. So they started the Moyer Foundation in Seattle, above an Ace Hardware store, was the first office space, really, and supporting other nonprofits, youth-serving nonprofits, family nonprofits. Also started a fund, the Gregory Chaya Fund, to help a young man who had at that time an incurable cancer, who's doing very well now. So they really just helped many, many organizations through their work supporting kids.
Love that. I did not know they had 8 children.
Yes.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's a fun fact. That's amazing.
Being one of 8, I find it very, yes.
Oh, that's very aligned for you then.
There you go. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yes. Yeah.
So in 2002, Camp Erin was launched in honor of Erin Metcalf and her family.
Yeah.
So can you tell us more about what that first camp aimed to achieve?
Sure. Erin was, I wish I had had the chance to meet her, but just a really compassionate, lovely young woman who had 2 older sisters. And she was very concerned when her liver transplant did not go well. And I think they knew, Jerry and Michelle, her wonderful parents, that she wasn't going to make it, how her older sisters would be impacted by that, right? And having lost a brother myself, that sibling loss can be really challenging. And so her make-a-wish when she was sick was to go to Mariners spring training camp. And the Moyers and the Metcalfs became very close. The Metcalfs are actually from Bucks County here and had relocated out to Washington. And so they became close. And Karen's grandfather, funny enough, was an undertaker. Her dad, Digger Phelps, the famous Notre Dame basketball coach, ESPN analyst. She had attended a grief camp when she was in South Bend, and she said, "Why don't we start a camp? We'd love to name it, after Erin, but have a camp for Erin's sisters and for all kids that maybe have lost someone." And then Jamie was playing back in the day, and they were able to really, just do amazing things, grow the foundation, and take it at the time to every Major League Baseball city.
That is really cool. I want to say I'm really sorry to hear that you lost your brother.
Oh, thank you.
As well, but you're right. That does give you this personal connect to it. And I can absolutely see the value of these type of camps for families. I know that there's one local too, just Chop does one as well
The Ronald McDonald House does offer a
yes.
camp for siblings, who have lost someone. They're a wonderful, wonderful organization. Grief is not a competitive space.
Yeah.
There's other camp programs out there too. I think what's unique about Camp Erin is that it could be for any loss. Kids ages 6 to 17, they're welcome to come back if they still need support after the first time. We've heard, especially maybe with teenage boys, which I have right now, sometimes it's hard for them to open up in the beginning. So the second time coming back might be more helpful, where they really can express themselves better. But
it's wonderful. Yeah, and I think the difference is the Ronald McDonald House is more just for like the sick children and their siblings.
Yeah.
This is more oriented towards grief specific.
Yeah.
And that's just such like you said, a wonderful outlet, especially for young people to feel safe enough to get their emotions out there about what they're dealing with.
It's hard as adults, right?
So hard as an adult.
Imagine, right? I know we were chatting, and we've both lost parents, and it's hard as a young adult, as an adult, and the kids really, just. I could see like the proverbial light bulb, kind of goes off when they realize they're not alone. They're not the only one. They're there. And, we always start off camp by telling Erin's story, and we do a memory board ceremony, and we post Erin's picture up on the board and share that, like, look, you're not alone. This camp's been going on for 20 years. There's camps happening, usually many other weekends in other cities. We're in about 30 locations for Camp Erin. This is, we keep that memory board up. So all the kids are welcome going to come up and place a picture of their person and share or not share, and they stay up all weekend just to bring that sense of community together. That look, we're here, and that's what we say. Like, you're not alone, and we're here for you wherever you are. Right? We're not going anywhere. You know, you could be actively grieving, but you're always bereaved, and we're here for you when you need us.
That is such an important point to make, that the grief doesn't stop. You know, like we know that as adults who have lost someone, that it's this cyclical process that doesn't ever really end. And I think that's so powerful for young people to know, to get that concept in the beginning of their grief journey, and to understand that somebody's always there for them.
Right.
I love the idea of these camps. So in 2018, as the foundation celebrated its 18th birthday, the Moyer Foundation rebranded to Eluna. Yeah. So can you talk about the decision to rebrand and the meaning of the new name?
Sure. It seems like so long ago, but yet yesterday. You know, the Moyer Foundation, when it started, I'll say, you know, a foundation we think of in the nonprofit world maybe as a funder more, but they created their own programs through Camp Erin, and then a few years later Camp Mariposa, to support kids impacted by addiction or substance use disorder in their families. So once they started doing their own programs, really, you know, it I think came to this inflection point of, are we still going to be supporting other nonprofits, or are we going to really fundraise, right? Because all of our programs and services are free. We have to raise everything to keep them going. And so when I remember interviewing 9 years ago, almost 10 years ago, it was, you know, well, do we want to keep the foundation? And, you know, Karen and the family, you know, they were not tied to like, our name has to be on it. So we just started thinking about like, you know, what does the future look like for Eluna now, you know, and it really was, of course, like it's a made up name, but it was really focused on the light that we can bring into people's lives during a dark time, kind of tied in with the moonlight. I always wear my moon necklace for Eluna, but tied in for like the moonlight at camp that's so healing, right? And that we're all under the same stars. We're all under the same moon. Like, you know what? We're not going to maybe make all of your problems go away. We're not going to cure it, but tomorrow's a new day. It's a new dawn. And we really were excited because the kids loved the name and we wanted something that the kids were excited about. So it was really just a chance to focus more on the programs and the kids, right? It's not about me. It's not about, you know, like all the adults in the room. It's really about, we want to make sure that all of our kids can learn how to understand these issues, and seeing them come back as counselors and come onto our Young Professionals Council and want to help more kids. Like, that's how we know it's working.
Gives me the chills, the light and the darkness. Like, that's just also such a beautiful thing to teach a young person. To allow that to happen in their life, right. You know, for someone to be the light in their darkness, and then to be inspired to be that for somebody else going forward, or to be a camp counselor.
It's a beautiful thing.
It's beautiful. Yeah. So that name has such meaning, and I appreciate you telling us more about that, because that really ties it all together. So through the power of community, your organization works to ensure that no child grieves alone, and as you mentioned, that the cycle of addiction is broken. Can you tell us more about the programs, maybe aside from the camps, or even can you tell us a little bit more about the other camp? And what's the greatest impact of your organization, in your opinion?
Wow. Yeah. I think the longevity right now, we're celebrating 25 years of, you know, supporting children, teens, and families impacted by grief or substance use disorder. And I always say there's so many amazing nonprofits out there, but even to get, you know, past the $1 million fundraising mark, or, you know, to get to 5 years, 10 years is a feat. So I think it's really a testament to our board, our donors, our volunteers, our families, that you know how important this is, because, you know, we do say sometimes people don't know about us until they need us, right? And that's our job with our new brand, is to get it out there and to make sure people know, hey, you know, we're here to support you. These programs are here to support you. So in addition to Camp Erin that we were talking about, Camp Mariposa was created, again, through a very personal relationship of the Moyer Foundation, of the Moyers, who had custody temporarily of a family member whose parent was struggling with with a substance use disorder. And, Karen is a very tenacious, compassionate, amazing mom and woman. And she said, we need to help these kids too. They need the same peer-to-peer support that we have at our grief camp. And she sought out experts in family addiction, or like Claudia Black, and saying, how do we help these kids? And we really focused on 9 to 12-year-olds before they become teenagers, because kids with addiction in the family are 4 times more likely to develop an addiction of their own. So very important to, get them involved early. And the program, Brian Moss, who is our director, has just grown exponentially. Really, now we have teen programming. The kids kind of form a family and they don't want to leave the program. So, we're in 17 locations. We work with JFCS here in Philly, which is just such a wonderful partner. But these kids go every other month, so up to 6 times a year, the camp. It's a mentoring program. It's leadership development. It's really continuing, because, just doing an after school, seminar is not going to make the difference, right? And it's also involving the families. And that's a big focus of Eluna too. We talk about the kids all the time, and that's so important, but really helping the families have the tools and be able to have a conversation, to be able to understand the issues. So the months in between Camp Mariposa, there's usually family support, whether like sometimes we've done a college visit for the kids, surfing lessons in California, going to a museum, or just having a pizza night or a movie night, but just really giving the families and all school-age children in the family the opportunity to come together and really, right, support each other and talk, and how's it going? And we've got a lot of grandparents raising kids now, so they need support too. So it's just really very community-oriented.
Sounds fabulous. And it's speaks to also what you were saying about the grief camp, that it's just giving the young people the community, the idea that somebody else is going through this too. Yeah. I think substance use disorder can be very lonely for not only the person who's going through it, but everyone around them who feels like nobody understands how this is impacting me, or how this is impacting my family.
Yeah. There's a lot of stigma.
Yeah, there's so much stigma, and it's really makes it difficult, I think, especially for young people to navigate, because the fear of shame and the fear of that stigma. So you're kind of giving them a safe space to understand that this is okay, that this is happening, that it's not only happening to you, and giving them the tools to kind of navigate that. I think that's so powerful.
It is. And imagine, having to try to process a family member's substance use disorder, and then, you're getting bullied at school. Or you're within your own family members that maybe you're staying right out of your immediate households. And then sometimes it's, well, we're not going to let you turn out like that. And how that makes, so it's all, we always talk about, like, we want to give the kids a voice. Like, that's part, right? We want them to come to camp and have fun, right? And get out of their environments. And sometimes that's really good for the parent or guardian as well. Like, like we've had some amazing ones saying, we don't talk about enough that this is healthy for us to have some time to process alone as well. Yeah. But, just having the kids, learn from each other and talk to each other and support each other. It's so heartwarming. And I'm always astounded, a 9-year-old, sharing what they went through, just even being able to verbalize it, and then support other kids. And it's just like you said, this is not just me. Okay. This other people are going through this. And like, it's very, we say it's normalized, right? And they're at camp. They know they're in a safe environment. They know they're supported, and they rebuild trust with adults, and it's really important.
And having the bravery, I think, to open up and talk about it probably makes a major difference in them going forward too. Like you said, to have a voice and to feel more comfortable speaking about their own story or their own experience.
It's
just such an awesome community that you're offering them. So I read an article on your website that says the JAG Institute estimates that there are over 4.9 million youth in the United States who have experienced the death of a significant person in their life. Mm-hmm. And death, as we said, can be really difficult for adults to discuss, let alone children. Mm-hmm. So Eluna is focused on supporting these young people. Can you tell us more about how Eluna partners with organizations across the country to bring these programs to local communities?
Sure. I think it goes, back to the roots of the Moyer Foundation is community partnership, right? Our new tagline is Camps Community Connections, because that's what we're all about, that we're not just going to come in and do a camp and leave, and, when we don't know the community. And I think with our Eluna Resource Center as well, we've launched a series starting in the pandemic. It was our 20-year anniversary, and it did not feel right to celebrate anything when people were losing caregivers, kids were losing parents. It was horrible. We launched community conversations. Really, my vision of that was that we give people the tools on how to talk to their neighbor, how to support, right, another family in school who's lost someone or what happened, but just trying to bring communities together to learn, to understand, right, and to take action, right, and make a difference. So I think what happens with the JAG Institute and getting all that great data for us and seeing where kids are grieving and what's happening just allows us all to really work with community partners. So what we've been able to do throughout the past 25 years is partner with amazing community organizations like Boys and Girls Club, Jewish Family Community Services, West Care, like health hospices all across the country. And now we have this amazing, network of thought leadership, right, and partners, so that help to build resources in our resource center, help to lead these conversations that we're having. We've had advisory groups to help with suicide support and suicide prevention, right, because now we have these thought leaders. We're launching an overdose grief program here in Philly and looking to do one in Boston just because we have this great network of support. And it helps us stay right in tune to what's happening in the community and being responsive. Like, we've gone into communities that have had a tragedy and worked with our local partners to offer support, right? Letting them know our resource center is there. We have bilingual support, personalized support. We're here for you, and just really filling that gap when maybe like in-person resource centers have waiting lists, right, and are full and can't, be as responsive as they want to the community. So it's a very unique model, I think, of the nonprofit world. I don't know how long I've been a nonprofit now, but I just love it, that it's, we have these amazing partners and volunteer networks, and they're so caring for the kids and the families, and, it's throughout, and they're supporting each other. We have partner portals where they can talk to each other and, of course, hold, meetings, and some of them come down to the Mentor Summit on our Camp Mariposa side in DC. We're just learning from each other, and that's, as we held one community conversation on how to best support, right, our communities, our Black communities that were dealing with a lot of homicide and a lot of deaths after the pandemic. It was like, you better know what you're talking about and you better be informed, right? Because you have to build trust, and, you have to be responsive to the community needs. So it's so important. Our partners are just absolutely wonderful.
And you're right. In the nonprofit space, it's kind of rare, I think, unfortunately, to have so much connection among different organizations working together for, a common cause. Right. I wouldn't. It's rare, but I would say it seems to be shifting a little bit in certain, and I'm hearing about it a lot on this podcast.
That's honestly,
great, which is great. I'm thinking of somebody that I interviewed on the last season who was really talking about exactly what you were just saying. We don't know how to serve the community if we don't listen to the community and ask them what they need. And she was saying, there's an organization that already exists in Montgomery County. And so we have all of these discussions with them and, data collection and all sorts of sourcing this information and knowledge to then help them grow their impact, basically, and help us grow our impact collectively. But I loved hearing that and everything that you're saying as well, especially because you're doing this on a national level. Yeah. That you're bringing
Canada. One Canadian province.
Nice.
In Camp Erin, yes.
Oh,
yeah,
that's
we got
awesome. And it's just, I would also imagine that it makes your impact in terms of the camps much more significant to have all these partners involved. And like you said before, because you want people to know where to find you, right? You want people to know that these camps exist and that together, working with all these partners, you can make a greater impact.
Yeah, always trying to grow. It's been a shift, I think, from, every Major League Baseball city. And then we've had some amazing hospice and grief center partners. And they were like, all right, we're going to go out on our own now. And, we felt so, I think it was a shift for the organization, but I felt so good about that. Like, as one of our board members put it so well, like we propagate, we're not, we don't have to own, we don't have to do that. And then, now we can look at it, especially like with Judy's house, Jag, that you mentioned, we've got great data on where the need is. Now we can go into communities that really maybe don't have that support. And how do we help build up grief support in communities that need it the most? Yeah. And, we can turn to those and do it. So
Could you tell us a little bit more about JAG and
Sure.
what that is? And because you and I talked about it a little bit.
Yeah. Judy's House was founded by Brian and Brooke Greasy. It's a grief center out in Denver that was named after Brian's mom. And they developed this childhood bereavement estimation model, really looking at like who is bereaved in each state, causes of bereavement, and we've been able to work with them to kind of pair that up with our camps. And, from a diversity standpoint to equity, looking at like, are we serving the kids who really are in need, the kids who are bereaved, making sure. So they just do really wonderful work. New York Life Foundation is such an ardent supporter, longtime supporter of all of youth bereavement, childhood bereavement work, supporting us, supporting Judy's House, and many other great organizations. So again, just being sensitive to what's happening in the communities and learning, if we can't, we've applied for some grants, we really would like to help build grief infrastructure in states like West Virginia, who don't really have a lot of grief support there, right? And in some urban cities where there's not a lot of affordable space to open a grief center, and how could we do that? So they're really great partners, and through National Alliance of Children's Grief, where a lot of our partners get together and try to tackle some of those problems and figure out how we can bring support where it's needed.
Right, filling in those gaps and finding out the areas where people just don't have access.
Yeah. And we started Camp Erin online also after the pandemic, just to be able to offer support. We got a great grant from the Brave of Heart Fund, which was started by New York Life and Cigna, just to offer support because there was a lot of stigma, again, around COVID deaths. Mm-hmm. So we were really focused on healthcare workers who had lost someone to COVID, and really anyone. And, our bereavement professionals, led by Bethany Gardner on our team, said, look, anyone who lost someone during the pandemic probably wasn't allowed to grieve as they normally would. So they were very understanding and supportive of that. But just having family camp programs. So now we're offering programs for the whole family through our Camp Erin online. And Kelly, who runs our program, has offered workshops, and we've done photography workshops and art workshops, and, looking at teens and young adults and just being able to offer that support. So maybe, you missed the camp that was once or twice a year and you just need support now, or you're not ready. And we also offer, for Children's Grief Awareness Month, which is in November, we did a National Luminary Ceremony, which is what we do at camp on Saturday nights, but we did it online and let people come together and really honor the loved ones or their person that they lost. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. And again, that just offering the online platform means that you're reaching as many people as you possibly can. And people hopefully will continue to know where to find you and how to get involved. But you're removing those barriers to treatment, and to relief with what they're dealing with. So on this podcast, we center our conversation on two topics, community and compassion. We've obviously talked a lot about community, and we know that that's like such an important core element of what you do. And obviously it's very aligned with what we talk about here on the show. Yes. So can you tell us, what is your own definition of compassion, and how does it relate to the work that Eluna is doing?
Yeah, I think our program team are some of the most compassionate people I've ever met in my life. Our resource center, we offer free personalized support, 24-hour turnaround. And people sometimes just need someone to listen. And there's a lot of hard cases that we hear, and people coming to us, they don't know where else to turn. They don't know where to start. And I think it's really starts with understanding and listening, right? I think that's it. And for me, the other flip side of that is taking action, right? Not judging, just saying like, okay, we're here to help you and support. And just, our job is to build that up and let people know that we're here. But just understanding and feeling, I mean, look what's happening in the world, what's happening in California. Like, I mean, seeing those compassionate stories come out, right, of people helping people, and that's tied into community with me. It totally is. But yeah, I just, our volunteers, our camp partners, I mean, I always say like hospice workers are angels on earth.
Yes, they are.
Right?
Yes,
I mean,
they are.
So yeah, it's just really, and I think people know, they know that when they come, and we talk also a lot about being confidential, like we want people to know that that's not we're not judging them. We're not sharing it. This is, it's very personal things, right, that you're asking someone to share in order to help them, right, and learn about them so you can best serve them. So yeah, there has to be that trust there too.
For sure. And compassionate listening goes a very long way.
Yeah.
I talk about this a lot from the documentarian perspective. That I actually gave a talk, or was part of a panel last year about, it was about caregiving, but also about just like the patient experience, because my nonprofit, we support those who are battling a disease that I lost my mom to, scleroderma. And I said, the number one thing I've learned on the other side of the camera, interviewing all of these people for over a decade now, is that compassionate listening, it's not easy to do, first of all. It's really not. That's a skill I've had to hone. But it can make such a significant difference for someone who's facing anything challenging. They're carrying this heavy burden, and really all they need is someone to not just hear what they have to say, but to listen in such a way where they know that you care. Yeah. And maybe you can't fix the problem, but you can hold space for how heavy it feels for them.
Very well said.
And somehow that alleviates their suffering.
Yeah.
We go for like a whole weekend with the patients that we're filming, and you're meeting the family, you're spending time with them. It's a very like intimate experience. And I always say, you go into the weekend and most people, have their guard up, or they're nervous. They don't know, what you're going. I mean, you've got lights, cameras, and I totally understand that that's overwhelming in and of itself. And now you're about to like tell your biggest, deepest feelings about what you're going through. But what's amazing for me to see is every single time, I'm telling you, every single patient we've ever spent the weekend with, by the end of it, you can see that there is this weight has been lifted off of them. Yeah. Because we just spent the past 4 days letting them talk. Yeah. And we listened compassionately, and we heard them. And we didn't just, as soon as they were done, say like, okay, that's a wrap, moving on, And it was like, I'm a hugger. I'm always hugging them. And, I just think of that, and with what you're doing, is that is essentially what it is you're creating a space for people to be seen and heard and validated in what they're going through. And in a way, you're giving them this big hug. Yeah. You're creating.
I was going to say, you've described our camp weekend perfectly. The kids especially like come in a little sheepish on Friday night and not sure. And by, within 24 hours, they're, just laughing and smiling and running around. And, we always say it kind of ebbs and flows, right? We do like a luminary ceremony, which is a very somber, the kids decorate a luminary at Camp Erin and in honor of their person. And then we set it afloat on the water or light it up. And, they can say their name, and it's a very lovely, as after the sun sets, and and then they go make s'mores and have a dance party, so it really, just showing that it's okay to cry, it's okay to laugh, it's okay to have fun again, right?
And that grief really is all of that, right? Like exactly. You're grieving the person you've lost, but like you still need to have moments where you're allowed to like laugh about things that you had with them, or remember fun memories, but also you're allowed to still have fun yourself. Yeah. You're allowed to keep living.
About, right. And it's, uplifting and heartbreaking at the same time. We've had campers come to Mariposa and say, what's a s'more? Or Santa Claus isn't going to come because he's never come to my house. right? So just being able to give them those experiences and memories together, and they make it. We always say we just facilitate, right? It's really the kids that make the magic happen at camp, and it's for them. And it's really, we always say it's like the adrenaline and just the, euphoric, like, wow, it's just an honor to bring people, and we try to keep it small to just witness camp and see what's happening and help to share the story of Eluna and what we're trying to do. And it's all, you always just walk away and just, you want to just, keep giving hugs.
It makes me wish that like that could exist for every child on this planet.
Yeah.
Really. The experience, to have an experience like that in such an intimate and intentional way is just beautiful and transformational. Yeah. It sounds like. So, like I said, we're not even going to touch community because I think we know that you are super community driven, and we see how it's impacting these children to have that community and to take these relationships away from camps and to feel like this is an ongoing support system. So how can families who are grieving or in need of support, how can they best connect with Eluna and tap into these programs that you offer?
Yeah, it's easiest to go to our website, elunanetwork.org. They can see all the camps in their programs. They can look at all the camps across the U.S. They can sign up to join a community conversation. Of course, we're Eluna Network on all the social channels, Instagram, Facebook. We get a lot of referrals from our local partners as well. But if you want to contact the Resource Center, families are, again, if you really need support right away, or a lot of times it's a friend or a relative who's reaching out on behalf of a family. But Sarah, who does our personalized support, is just amazing and so compassionate, as you mentioned. Going to elunanetwork.org is a great place to start.
Perfect. And how can listeners best support the work that Eluna is doing? Do you have any potential opportunities for volunteering, or how can people get involved?
Yeah, sure. Donations are always welcome. All of our programs are at no cost to families. So we're, whatever we raise, the majority of it's going back into our programs. Volunteer opportunities are always available, whether it's volunteering at camp for, speaking of community here in Philadelphia, we've got some great corporate supporters and organizations we work with, and we have some consulting opportunities, and we do lunch and learns. And, grief is so universal as well as addiction. So a lot of times, these are the unseen issues that are happening in people's lives. So every time we work with a company or an organization, so many people, or they just find out what we do, come up to us and say, oh my God, I would love to get involved. Tell me more. So plenty of information on elunanetwork.org. But yes, we would love to help you and love to have you involved.
Wonderful. And yes, like you said, donations, that goes without saying, but it's worth repeating that's how you operate and how you're able to give this amazing gift to these young people and to these families. And you have done incredible work since this organization started. It's really been fascinating and heartwarming to hear how this all evolved and how it seems like there has been such a compassionate thread throughout the entire process, which is also probably why you've been able to grow to what you've been able to grow to, and you have such amazing partnerships. So
it goes back to our original donors and supporters in Seattle, and who many of whom are still around, and we have 4 programs still thriving there, and now it's just, again, it's so great to see the alumni and what they're doing with their lives and coming back to mentor and to be camp counselors and to help other kids. And it takes a village, as Karen always says, the bigger the team, the bigger the difference. And, it's just keeping that going for, the next 25 years. I think that's we all feel obligated to make sure that these programs and services are around for infinity.
Yes. And I encourage everyone who's listening to do what you can to support, because what you're doing is powerful work, and we want to see it continue for many more years to come. So thank you, Mary, for taking the time to be here with us. It was such a pleasure to have you on.
Thanks so much, Christy.